Welcome back to EHC Unfiltered. If you haven't listened to the first episode I've done with Jordan, go start there because we are building on that conversation a little bit today. I am back with Jordan Mixon, menswear and lifestyle creative, Getty contributor, and founder of Sip and Pose Model Mixer, and now officially my modeling agent. So, since our last episode, I have walked in Miami's Men's Fashion Week, and today we're going to break that down a little bit. What actually happened, what most people don't see, and what comes next in the modeling world. Jordan, welcome back.
It's good to be back. Hello, hello.
So, now that Fashion Week is behind us, what stood out to you most watching it unfold from the agent and photographer side of things? Because you were in the media pit as well.
Oh gosh. So I always try to prepare folks that this is a completely different world. There are several things happening at once. And as many times as I try to prepare models, I prepare ones up to a certain point, but you are going to be pulled in various directions, meet a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, and I mean personalities. And designers, all the things. So this time around, since for Florida Men's Fashion Week, my involvement with that production, it makes it 1 year. And it's been really cool to see the evolution of how it started last November to where it is now. From a photographer, well, actually, we'll go back. From an agent perspective, that was fun because I'm more involved behind the scenes. A lot of people don't really see what goes on backstage, where there's the hair and makeup team. You have designers that are arriving. You have these models. You're meeting the production crew, and there's a structure on how things are supposed to go. But then things happen where you got to put out small fires. For me as an agent, it was fun to see what we had 7 guys at the time, 7, and I'm basically trying to make sure that everyone is okay, that they have everything. You guys were already very well prepared with our model coach, Chance Gwynn. Shout out to Chance
Sure.
because it stood out.
She's going to have to come on next.
Yeah, yes, having Chance on will be epic for sure, definitely.
I'll be reaching out to her about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, because the foundation of how well prepared you are, it serves a huge deal in terms of the decision makers are really backstage. A lot of people when they go to these runway shows, and yes, there's influencers there are media figures, there should be certified buyers as well. There's all sorts of people that are a part of that industry, which it was more of an industry invite with a little bit of like general audience tickets, but it leans more in towards an industry centric audience. But ones forget that behind stage is where, for me as an agent, I'm learning about so many things about how do ones handle pressure? What is your professional attitude like? Are you easy to work with these designers? Because you may get a designer that is not so nice, They're so caught up in their vision. And then you meet someone that is absolutely the nicest, but they're just stressed out because they may have not done a lot of shows. And sometimes, you got to step in and show some decorum and just be even headed while, there's folks that are nervous for different reasons. For the designer, they just hope that their presentation goes well. They're hoping that all the models that they select are good models. And then something happens. Oh God, we lost a few models. So me as an
Well, I mean,
agent,
that
yeah,
was how I got picked for a couple things, was just right place, right time. I was just there and willing is essentially what it took. So
yes, it helps with having some insight of the Miami market, of the type of designers that are going to be there. It helped with knowing a few where I'm like, okay, I know this designer's taste. I know the type of looks that he or she tends to go for. So when there was also there were situations where, hey, there were some models that thought they were going to get flown in and all this craziness. I'm like, no, or bring a security guard, or they, there were some no shows, which creates a series of some quick thinking that has to be done. So what I did was, like any other decent agent, is to position the guys that I know that are ready and prepared to set them up with will try like present them to designers that may take them on. Karan was a good example of that
Mhm.
with you, where he was missing. There was a, I think, a few models or something like that that was missing, or something to that effect. And I talked to him and brought you up and kind of present. I kind of like brought you, sort of like proverbially pushed you in front of him, like, I have Steve.
Lo-
It pains when you were prepared, because when you walked in that yellow robe, one of the things that he asked if you had logoless underwear. Karan breathed a sigh of relief when you were prepared. You, as well as the other models representing the mixing method, had the most prepared model bags. And things
uh,
like that goes a long way, where these guys have been in other shows where, in some cases, okay, well, the person was cast for the show, but when you actually meet them, you find out the truth of whether how prepared they are. Are their walks really strong the way that it's supposed to be? Because producers have a responsibility to ensure that the designers are getting the most bang for their buck. That's something that a lot of people don't understand either sometimes. And the casting process can vary at times. Some of it is good faith. I call it good faith casting. And others, well, the casting is a little bit more, there's tiered. It's like, well, step one, we like the look, but step two, we need to see the walk. Um,
mhm,
Sometimes it comes through just having a strong relationship with an individual that's in the industry that can vouch for said individuals that are models that are, slated to be involved in the show. So overall, one thing that was really nice to hear was that the designers were very impressed with you and my other models that came prepared. The hair and makeup team was thrilled. The makes things go smoothly when ones can handle pressure
mhm,
and sometimes unexpected things that just come up. And then you're dealing with a variety of personalities all in one room. And that's always fun for me to see, because I was like, I'm kind of low key scouting, maybe, maybe not, but also like making sure that my guys are being taken care of. But then I have to switch brains to being a photographer. And when it comes to showtime, well, even actually to some extent backstage, I was shooting backstage a little bit, which that was nice to do. It's nice having double the badges, double the authority to like say, excuse me, I need to get my shot. I love shooting backstage because it's the truth. It's all the, it's, to me, it's very akin to street photography. It's candid. I'm not, maybe certain things will be, I will ask a model or somebody to kind of pose or just be in that moment, but because there's just a storm of things going on, I just love that kind of chaos. I love
mhm,
it because there's just so much energy. There's so many scenes, and all you got to do is just lock in and find it. And there's a story there. And it's also really cool being up close and personal with the designs themselves. And that gives me a little bit more appreciation and more insight on how I want to shoot that when it comes to how the clothes worn by these models are presented in the runway lighting. But to just see, like, for example, the Indian designer Ravisi, if I'm saying that correctly, hopefully, super ornate, very decorative, very colorful, very embellished, and to see that and to feel that material and then wonder how that will photograph, and to take photos in a way that honors the art that's
right,
been.
because the line itself was beautiful. Everyone backstage was staring at it. They were especially excited to see Shiva's walk.
Yeah,
I was very upset that I missed it because I was in hair and makeup or something, but I didn't get to watch.
that's a signature walk. He has, Shiva has mastered. One thing of what I love about what Shiva does is that he's one of those, he's a very smart model that he's done a lot. He has his signature walk, but he knows when to turn it on and turn it off. Because there were some models, and I'm going to say there's some there that they don't understand. It's not entirely about you, like your
Yeah,
job.
not at all, really. It's
Yeah,
not about you as a model, it's about the clothes that you're wearing or
yeah.
lack of clothes that you're it's about the brand that you're wearing.
It's not the brand, but you do have a role to bring life to the designer's vision. So there is that middle ground where you do have autonomy. No one's not saying that you're nothing, or anything like
Well,
that.
that's like with a lot of the looks that, they put me in. If I went out there smiling and happy and giddy, like, it wouldn't have matched the look, you know what I mean?
Precisely.
Like, I was in a lot of dark colors, a little, like, leaning punk rock, leaning, uh, kinky fetish, depending on what outfit I was wearing.
Dope, Fabio. Hey, dope.
But still oh, I love him. He's great. But
I like
so
him a lot.
and he was great to work with, to be honest. Like, he was very respectful, and especially when it came to wearing some more risque clothing, gave me he was like, "What do you feel comfortable in? Are you comfortable?" Like, he asked me, like, 4 or 5 times, like,
Yeah.
before putting it on, after putting it on, while
Hmm.
getting dressed, like, the whole 9. He was like, "Are you sure?"
And that's
You're
rare.
comfortable with it.
That's rare because edgy designers like him that are the definitely ones that are more provocative. They're like, I'm not making any apologies about what this is. It
No,
is
it's it's
this
that
is
it's
the
that for a
collection.
reason. Right.
Yeah. And because there are some that are so abrasive and like you will wear this, But that was really cool of him. And also
'Cause
Stephen
that
Michael
goes a long
Oliver.
way.
Yeah, the other designer, the swimwear designer, Stephen Michael Oliver, was also very attentive to Dylan because Dylan's a teacher, and the initial outfit versus what he ended up wearing was, respectful to, hey, I'm a teacher, like, oh, I
'Cause
totally get
he
it.
he almost was in the Borat song for a minute. I still think it was hilarious talking to him afterwards, and he was like because I had just walked with, uh, Dope Tavio's line, and he
Huh?
was like, "Steven just did it. I can do it." And then he put it on, and he was like, "Maybe not."
I mean, let's just say TikTok was enjoying your solo video.
Believe that. But so let's dive into that a little bit more. From your perspective, what separates a good fashion week from a forgettable one?
Wow.
Because you've been there for a few, and I know we're already talking about the next men's fashion week being at the same time as swim week,
Yeah.
like overlapping. So,
Yeah.
that's a whole new curveball that they're, pitching to themselves. So yeah,
Sketchy.
what separates a good week from a forgettable one?
I think about the preparation and the organization of it, the quality of the models that are involved. There are ones that are influencers. And while I'm going to just say my piece on this because I've been you probably know where I'm going to
I
most likely go with that.
have an idea.
There's standards. There's industry standards that are many are longing to return, and there's a kind of a hierarchy to these type of shows that are around, and there are standards when it comes to the quality of the walks, the professionalism and the preparedness of the model, the readiness of the model, and then you have the quality of the designers too, because you can kind of look into a show by looking at the whole roster of designers as well. The crew, the immediate accreditation that is attached to these shows. Some have it, some don't, which influences whether it's worth getting involved in because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of these shows are not paid,
A lot
but
of these shows you pay for, in a
yeah,
sense. Like,
it's an
you might
investment.
you might yeah, you might not necessarily pay, like, an entrance fee or anything to be in the show, but, like, you're gonna pay for your own travel, you're gonna pay for your own food, your own housing, for the most part. I mean, there are people who have specific designers that they work for, that their designer, gets them out there. That's a completely different story, though.
It
For
happens.
most people, the way it was explained to me, at least, is runway is marketing. You
It
know, there
is.
are there are the top levels, of that marketing that
Right.
they get paid to do it,
Hmm.
but For most models, doing runway is a chance to show yourself in different avenues and to give yourself more exposure and just a marketing experience from a personal level, not just the brand level, if that makes sense.
Right. And it's very similar for photographers that invest in this as well, because there are some that are hired for specific things, if not by the designer, to hire a photographer to ensure, and really more like insurance, that they will get the photos that they need, because that sometimes is an issue in the media pit, that you have these photographers, but not all of them are really there to like support the show. They're there to get their content for whatever reason, and then they vanish, or sometimes game the system of they somehow got in, took the photos, got the information of who are the models, and then they send, because that's something that happened in a different show after Florida Men's Fashion Week, which was a good example of, like, you have a photographer that is charging models to download their photos, but that contradicts when the arrangement from the production team was trade for photos.
Yep.
So it takes advantage of the eagerness that a lot of times these models need these photos for their portfolio, maybe their agencies that
So
may.
do you think that's miscommunication from, the organizers of the show to the photographers to the models? Or is it like, are some people vindictive and they know that they can take advantage of inexperienced models and make a couple extra bucks?
It
Is
can
it
be a
a little
combination
mix
of
of
both.
both?
It can be a combination of both. If the vetting process isn't strong enough, you'll see that, because there are, and especially in a market like Miami, where it's nothing for Miami to have like a show over the
Right.
weekend, if not during the week. There's Miami is full of shows. And because of that, it's kind of like the paparazzi mentality, where, you got these team of photographers literally hunting for celebrities and all this kind of stuff, and blackmailing them and wanting, hey, I won't post your photo unless you give me $10,000 or something crazy like that, which is a thing. In a similar light, if the vetting process for the media pit isn't secured, and the crew is fully aware of who's exactly supposed to be there, there are checks and balances, because I've been in different shows where it was very organized. You knew who was going to be there. You knew who was going to be there.
Yeah, if
But
you weren't on the list, you weren't in the building kind of
oh,
thing.
you weren't getting in. You were not getting in. And it's understood that the photographers and videographers involved are offering
Mhm.
there, because it's an investment too for us. Now that's a whole conversation of caveats and other footnotes
Well,
in
'cause
itself.
I was gonna say that, there's a couple different streets we could go down with that as far as like, okay, so do certain designers hire specific photographers? Do magazines send specific photographers? Things like that. Is it kind of more of an open opportunity for photographers to, make their break into the scene kind of the same way it is for models? Or is it, a mix? That I feel like the industry is a lot of everything.
A lot of
It
effort.
seems like every answer is really just yes, and it depends.
And you are right. Yes, and it depends. So in my case, I'm a published runway photographer, but I do I'm selective in the shows that I'm involved in. And there's a whole process in seeing whether your work will get publicized or not. And in this case, it was a bit of a different scenario of developing a rapport with Florida Men's Fashion Week, where became published.
Mhm.
I was on MS. I got my name got mentioned in MSN.com, but I've been published in other art. I've been in U.S. Business Insider. I've been in French magazine, menswear magazine, Garçon. So there are benefits, but it's not guaranteed to everybody, which is why there's definitely a technique, if you will, of positioning yourself. If you're going to devote time into this, then I try to position myself in a way where it's also worth my time and investment as well. Now, I was talking about how it's like touching on how it's really taboo to be charging models for photos, but
Mm.
I go about things in a different way where I don't charge models for shoots because models need test shoots. And oftentimes I arrange that, and that's a common practice that you will see that if a photographer is going to be in town to be involved in said show, they often put out an ad, if you will, that, hey, I'm going to be in town from this time to this time. Let's schedule a shoot, a mini shoot. That's how they make their money. That's one way. There are other ways. There are definitely other ways that is certainly more ethical that makes it worth their time and value to be involved. Aside from if you are hired as the centered photographer or videographer or the official background photographer, there are other ways of winning. You just got to learn.
Yeah, you gotta make the most out of what you got in the moment, right?
Precisely.
So this was an interesting fashion week for us for the mixed method for a couple different reasons. One of which it was my first time walking or doing any sort of modeling, and it was also Dylan's first time walking or doing any sort of modeling.
Mhm.
So, watching us walk, what did we do well, and where do models typically lose points with their walks?
Oh, that's a great question because the media pit, as I was just talking about this with one of my newer photographer friends, and that we have a saying in the pit that the pit is the law. Like we will talk about you, all the good things, all the great things, and then we'll have like, did you see that? Oh my god, horrible! I'm not posting that. So one thing with you and Dylan that you did well is a followed directions. That is the one of the biggest things that goes such a long way with producers because they have a vision. And there's also a challenge because sometimes you will have that designer that they're kind of playing nice until they tell you at the final hour, actually I want you to do this because sometimes their egos get in the way. So what do you do? That's the interesting conundrum. And you both handled that. You basically stuck true to this was more of like an international style, which is normally like in Europe, the runway is continuous. There's not
Mm.
really stopping, if you will. There might be a little bit of something, but no, you are, once you go, you go. The focus is the power and the energy of the walk. And the faces is a little bit more stoic. It's not going to be happy, bright. Let me give you three or four poses and bam, how did you like that?
As a new model, I mean, I enjoyed
Mm
the European style, but I do think for me that is because my walk is a lot stronger than my poses.
hmm. Mm hmm.
So, being able to walk and
Yeah.
just be like, "Well, this is the thing I'm focusing on." That was nice. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being
So,
able to do that.
well, in your case, with the looks that you were wearing, it was
It's pretty
perfect.
minimal posing anyway.
Yeah, because really, this outfit is doing enough on its own. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen him, Steven in a whole net from Dope Tavio and
Yeah.
black spandex with a little bit of a, you know,
Oh, it wasn't no spandex. It was a full thong. It was up in the
thong
butt
thing. Yeah.
cheeks.
But so, yeah,
We got a little Prince Albert on the end there too. There was a lot going on.
there was a lot going on, and gloves on like black eyeliner. I was like, it was giving goth daddy.
I do think it's hilarious though, because of course, you get two Marines backstage in the same room together, and he was on FaceTime with his girlfriend after I had just walked, and he goes, "Look at this," and like flips the camera around and grabs the ring
Oh my
on the
god,
thong and
who
was
was
like
that?
walking me around backstage.
Who was that?
I'll give you three. He's one of your guys. The only other Marine we were there with. I forget Luis is a Marine, honestly. And then as soon as we start doing the back and forth, I'm like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we're the we really are the gayest straight people you will ever meet in your life was when you get two Marines together.
Yeah, he was not lying about that. I was like, I get it. I understand Luis even more.
Which is super funny backstage at a fashion show
Hmm.
because being the straight guys, you're the minority.
Yeah.
There's And
Mhm.
so do acting out of pocket that way, you get some side looks that are just, like, confused.
They're trying to
People are
figure it out.
people are trying to figure out what's going on. It's just 2 straight guys leading each other around by the underwear. What's so weird about that, you know?
So I'm sad I missed that because I would have
Oh,
been dying laughing.
that was great. We could ask him about it. His girlfriend was cracking up.
Oh my gosh. But your waltz was solid. It had the right energy to it, focused. You hit your mark with like I think also one of my favorite walks from you was back to Quran, where with the robe was gonna do its job in the look,
And it
your look
did. The
itself.
second I started walking, that robe blew up in
Yeah.
the wind, and I was like, "I'm a god." I was like,
Yes.
"This is."
He was so happy. He was
I
so
will
happy.
I will say I was, because again, this is my first show, and Karan was the first person I walked for, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I was shitting myself, absolutely losing my mind. And then I'm also, so my first walk is also now barefoot, which is completely different from any, like, wearing
Yeah.
shoes of any sort. It's a completely different feeling.
Right.
And then, of course, we went outside and then back inside
Right.
for the, path that the runway took. And outside there was a water spill, so I, keeping my eyes forward, walked right through the water, and then stepping back inside, I almost ate it. And then I was very lucky because they had that, like, little, like, I think it was, like, maybe 4 feet of
Right.
wall right when you walk in,
Yep.
and then that was the only thing that saved me from slipping in front of everybody, was that little wall.
Mhm.
And then I felt like my walk was off the whole time because my feet were wet. So because I was a little slippy and slidey, but then, yeah, afterwards, everyone was like, "That was great, that was amazing." Everyone was saying they never would have thought that it was my first time, doing this, and I'm just over here like, not good enough.
No, what happened was because the basics was there. You kept your composure. Would have never known because there's certain things that I saw. You can kind of tell that there are some individuals in the Miami scene that are I call them rogue models. They don't necessarily have the training. They just go to these shows and the show becomes the training. And it does speak. Maybe someone gonna come for me for this, but you can come for me. It's fine. But there are situations where the standards are not as consistent.
Mhm,
So just because you're walking in all of these shows doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of the walk is there because thinking in a much more broader scope, the reason why there's a difference between the trained model that has the foundations there that would serve other markets. That walk would have worked in LA. That walk would have worked in New York. Certain ones don't understand that what you're doing there will only work in that market, but
mhm.
you cannot take like the inconsistencies of the quality of that walk and apply it elsewhere where the standards are stronger. I'm not saying that Miami doesn't have it. There's definitely high standards,
It's
but
just different. It's a
it's different.
different market, yeah.
It's a different. It's different, and
And I mean,
the base.
anyone who's even just traveled, can tell you that the vibe of a city between New York, Miami, and Los Angeles are all very, very different vibes.
And the
So, like,
walks.
it make right, but even just as the city as a whole. So, it would make sense that their market for fashion would have a different vibe.
It
You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly. So no, there was a right amount of evenness and power and presence to that walk. Some stuck to kind of doing the same thing for every look. When certain models had a dramatically different look. Technically speaking, nobody was really supposed to be doing like all this extra stuff. Technically
Any
speaking,
posing. Any posing, yeah.
not technically speaking, but I think in all due and this comes out of love. I think that the powers that be have to realize that Miami is Miami, and Miami models are going to give you a Miami walk. They're going to give you a couple of this and a couple of that, regardless of what you tell them. Now, in other upper echelon type of shows, that ain't going to that's not going to fly. And in fact, even in this show, because I said certain things that if you do certain poses that are way off base, that was contradictory to the rehearsal, it could literally affect whether you get published or not. And it happened. It
Did it?
happened. It did. Because I'm like, there's reasons why they wanted a streamline of the pauses. So the shots themselves look clean in every magazine, publication, online feature.
Yeah,
That's why.
you don't have people in the background, you don't have,
Yeah.
all this other stuff going on, I get that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it has a European
especially since they
sentiment.
were I was gonna say, especially since they were doing the European style, it
Mhm.
makes sense because it was a continuous
Mhm.
flow that they needed it to, like, "Hey, we can't be doing, 30-second pauses on the mark
Yeah.
for you to have your own fashion show, like, we gotta
Yeah.
we gotta get this rolling because
There was some
the
of
guy
that.
behind you is behind you,
You
he's already moving."
Yeah, it disrupts the flow when you make it about you. And granted, there are ways to find nuance to even an international show style walk that it can still work. But the big points where, the money shot is like, you gotta play ball there. And it goes far. Now with Dylan is a similar situation where the basics was strong there. And it matched in the type of walk that he was doing certainly complemented the looks that he was in.
So, I wanna say this because it, applies to me as well.
Hmm.
How much of that do you think was the models adapting to the outfits? And how much of it do you think was the right outfit was put on the right model? You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't say that I necessarily changed my walk for anything. It just so happened that my style of walk matched very well with the outfits I was put in.
The
Does that
latter.
make sense?
The latter. Because in the case of like Emmanuel, also part of the mixing method, he walked for the Stephen collection, the suit collections. That is a different walk. That and this is
Wanna walk in a
where
suit. I wanna walk in a suit so bad.
oh, it can be done. That's formal wear. There's an Orlando show that speaks to that. It's very gala, like gala dresses and tuxedos. It's like it's ritzy. That is a suave, debonair. It has a different presence, and that's where the international style kind of comes at a clash in a little bit. In my honest opinion, where I'm like, well, Steven's collection was absolutely breathtaking. Every guy looked fantastic, but with that, he like that whole what Emmanuel did was a different walk from anything else that he had done. Because you're wearing this double breast suit, there's a way of posing that's subtle, that's like, I'm cool, I'm suave. That kind of like check out the inner lining. That's a different walk. That is a different walk. It has a different energy to it. It's not to say that with the baseline walk that you did would not have worked, but there would have been things that when I see formal wear, my mind switches to, okay, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Would you take off the jacket and and swing it? That's more Western style. No one really did that and really didn't need to do it because it's like, look, the suits. But
I think it probably would have been done if we weren't doing the European style. If it wasn't the constant movement, then I think, because a couple extra seconds goes a long way. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
you could have perhaps like, oh yeah, so hand in pocket, like slipping one hand in pocket, that works smoothly. You do it smoothly.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like even that, like we were told backstage not to do that. Like
Interest. Yeah.
unless we had our hands in our pocket the whole time. That was
Mm,
that was the thing because it was no posing.
right.
So it was like, okay, like if you're gonna have your hand in your pocket, you have your hand in your pocket the whole time.
Right.
It's not stopping and putting your hand in your pocket because then it's a pose.
Yeah. It's opposed.
Um,
Yeah. You're right. Yep.
there was a ton of I don't know if I was hyper focusing on the instructions because of who I am, or if it was just like, hey, these instructions are actually beneficial for me at the moment. but it was hard to watch other people just, like, blatantly do the things that they were told not to do, and I'm like, "Get out of my way then, like, have some"
Right.
you know what I mean?
And then it's like, well, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to do this. And like, okay. And then it starts to fall apart.
And I
So,
think that's what happened at a moment there, and I mean, we saw things happen where, the models not paying attention ruined a designer's whole, moment.
yeah. And
There
as
was
an
there was a lot
agent,
of things there.
it's little things like that as an agent that glares at me because I'm like, oh my God. If,
Well, and
if
as, like, the producers and everything too, like, they have to be taking notes of all this stuff, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? And especially, like, when you're one of the more there's not a nice way to say this, but one of the more standout models,
mhm,
if you mess up, that's noticed.
yeah.
Like, it's someone took note of that, especially if it was a big one, you know what I mean? If
Mhm,
you completely like, I don't wanna say ruined the show, but if you just went off script and did your own thing out there, like, a lot of people were watching you.
yeah.
A lot of people that, are in charge of setting these kind of things up, and your name, they're not gonna wanna see again.
Or they're just less inclined to offer opportunities. It may be like, well, we like you, but you kind of now that we kind of know you like to do these type of things. It
Right, you might get invited and walk for one person that still likes you, but you're
yeah,
not gonna be doing 4, 5, 6, 7 walks
yeah,
throughout, a two-day stretch.
precisely. Because if you do that for one designer, you're going to do that for everybody. That's not, you know, even that's why I was saying, even from an agent perspective, it's like, well, gosh, I wouldn't want to represent someone that kind of just does a thing that it just upsets directions. I mean, that can be applicable to the model that gets cast for a campaign. They
Yeah.
get there and they start doing their own thing, and it upsets the photographer, it upsets the brand. You get a call saying, "Hey, so your guy or girl, they started like doing stuff that was like, this shoot took forever. It was supposed to be a 4 hour shoot. It wasn't six. They kept doing things we asked them not to do." You see, it's like the
Yeah.
little things like that can really it can create a ripple effect. Your reputation is agency in and of itself in this business, and little things like that can have a way of coming back to haunt you in the end. Or at least for me, like as a photographer too, I'm really good at remembering faces, and I'm like, there are ones that I met and I know, and I'll be like, I know you. I know what you do.
Yeah,
You
you
do
did
some
the
crazy
thing.
stuff.
You did the thing. I don't like that.
I'm like you do those things like
But I mean, runway, like we said, isn't just walking, it's presence. And so part of that presence is how you in that area, part of your presence is how well you listen to instructions, how well you follow through, how well you get along with people, and
mhm,
just not being an asshole, I feel like goes a long way too.
yeah.
But so how much of runway success is just posture, professionalism, and that sort of thing, and not necessarily the walk?
Oh gosh, I could almost cross over into like the influencers that kind of infiltrate this space sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it definitely, the short answer is like some of my models, when they checked off all the right boxes, have seen immediate bookings immediately because of the fact that ones, and it's oftentimes the people that you less expected were the ones watching the whole thing. And they're like, you know what? I really liked this person, how they behaved. And then the walk was kind of like the afterthought, which it's bonus that it was fire. It gave it like the model did what they needed to do, but then the entire package, like you really are presenting the entire package, that oftentimes it can lead to immediate bookings
Mm.
because there's ones there that you don't think would be connected to a booking actually will be because they're connected to a whole other organization they didn't even tell you about because they're not obligated to. They're kind of like, it's talent scouting. Everyone's talent scouting and kind of waiting to see, okay, maybe not immediately, but I'm drawn to this individual and I want to see how they what else they do. So
Yeah.
it's definitely been a situation, even for myself, that it's led to my own bookings. When I get published, it creates a really great ripple effect for me, but definitely for the model that forms strategic, organic relationships that paves the way for future considerations, if not immediate, definitely later. Which I will say, there are things in the pipeline.
We like pipelines. We like
Oh yeah,
pipelines.
oh yeah. I was like, the mixed method did quite well, quite well.
We did all right. We did all right.
Yeah.
What So this is kind of on the same topic. What separates someone who looks like a model from someone who moves like a model? And not necessarily just how they pose and how they walk, but how they present themselves.
Well, it's their mindset and work ethic too. Yeah, there are ones that they can drawing from experience of meeting ones like I've tried helping develop some that they've got the look, they have the look,
Mhm.
but the work ethic that is involved in under meeting the criterias that various industry leaders look at, that's a common practice. If you don't have the flexibility, but you don't have the right side, like right level of patience. This is not it's not an instant fix for certain ones. Certain individuals, when it happens, it happens. But I promise you this, even though that wave, there can be a lull sometimes, but it's predicated upon the fundamentals of, do you have the right work ethic? Are you following through on some instructions that your agent or agency needs from you? Are you putting yourself out there in a way that endears yourself to different decision makers? Because it's not just the agency. One thing that I try to teach ones is to position yourself in a manner that when knowledge is being imparted into you, this market is different. Where I would say in the Western market, it's kind of more personality driven these days. Over in, European markets, they want to see a look. They don't need your opinion.
Well, because you're not even like true European, especially like runway, is really no facial expression, no real posing, right? It is just the walk and the clothes.
Unless it's something couture, where
Okay.
couture is like very experimental, it's very political at times.
Well, because they'll do big flashy things. Like I've seen like the models like all come up out of the ground and like stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. But it's that's still more production. Whereas like the
Mhm.
models themselves still aren't doing like crazy poses or anything like that. So it's a very different, it's very different.
The mindset is different too. So I have a model that is in Brazil. He's been modeling since teenage years. He was scouted in the US, but he does work primarily in Brazil, Turkey, and Germany. The way that Brazilians and East European Asian models, I will say it's vastly like their mindset is, I'm gonna be honest, it puts American models to shame. When they with working, they view it as like this is a job. And they can have other things going on, mind you. But getting the like they stay on their measurements. They make sure that they are in the meetings that they need to be. They communicate much more consistently. Whereas I think sometimes here that I notice it's like getting into modeling is more like, does it get me viral? If I'm gonna get all the views,
Yeah.
is all the things gonna happen? Is Oprah gonna DM me now that I did this one little thing? But I'm like, okay, well, you did this one little thing, and while it is good, it's not great. And if you're trying to get good at something, you got to stick with it a little bit. It's not to say that these other avenues wouldn't open because they often do. But, it's refining the areas that you need to work on that makes life that much easier while It's the payoff. I think there's sometimes what the mindset is one can look like a model, yes, but when they don't have the work ethic or the patience involved and the flexibility that is often the case, it doesn't work. I just say, just be an influencer. I mean, I am, you know?
I mean, that's kind of, what you run into at a lot of these shows, right? Is people who, on the opposite end of things, they already are an influencer or something like that, and they think that this is, like, just the next thing for them or something. I don't really know what the thought process is because 'cause I'm not one of them.
I'll tell you.
Um, let's hear it.
Well, because they're coming into this space thinking I'm doing you guys a favor with my 500,000 followers, or like, the rules don't apply to me. Okay, they're doing their walks, but I'm going to do me. That's the difference between a model versus an influencer. And granted, there are models who are influencers. The model was the original influencer, but we'll get there. But yeah, it's a completely different mindset. And it also informs me when I'm in a scouting mode and I'm trying to understand, is this person going to be a good fit when they understand that you are a vessel to serve the brand's narrative, even down to your look. Because certain agents are kind of skittish about talking about people's looks. I'm not. I'm going to tell you, like, look, for the lanes that you're trying to be in, this is the looks that they're casting. And these are the top down comments that I'm getting. And I'm trying to spare someone's dignity. I was saying, I would advise you not to have that. I would advise,
Well, and
do
that's like,
this.
for example, my beard is definitely one of them. It's one of those things where, the longer beard, yeah, it could be accepted in some markets and things like that, but it does hide like the shape of my face and, things like that a little bit.
Well,
Continue.
maybe what I'll say or add to that may help with the one that looks like a model but essentially isn't. It's often like it. Oftentimes, it's the attitude too, the entitled. Sometimes a lot of people come into this space entitled, and I think sometimes social media plays a role in that, especially with women, certain women. That it's a little tougher. It's saturated. This market is it's saturated with women. For the woman that is like, oh, I got all these designers or photographers that want to shoot me for free. Why would I need an agency when I have X, Y, and Z type of, followers and all this stuff? And I tell them because you don't have the skill sets of a model. Yes, you do the cute little duck face thing, but that's not Chanel ain't booking that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's your go-to thing, but what else? It's a performance. It's readiness. There's so much more to it than that. Are you able to cultivate relationships on your own while you have.
And I remember what I was gonna say to add to that, to add back on.
Yeah.
Is you have to be realistic as far as who you are to
Yes.
these brands,
Mhm.
because, we all have this image of ourselves and things that we can see ourselves doing and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So, for example, I am much easier to market for fitness, right? That kinda goes without saying. I would love to wear suits all the time, but I'm already, you know, at that upper echelon of size when it comes to, the suits that they have ready for, these kind of shoots and things like that. So it's in my lane. If I want to walk or do anything for a suit, I either have to be specifically picked for it so that I have something that fits,
Right.
or get lucky. That's really the only other, like, I just got lucky that they had a 46 regular jacket that day, you know what I mean?
So for men's suit sizing, they tend to like men with a chest not past 40 or 42. So in some cases, and even Chance will tell you, she's sometimes had to add or subtract muscle. It's kind of one of those things where it's like to to be more eligible for that market, there is a range, there's a sample size. For those that don't know, like there's sample size measurements that models get cast for. And the responsibility of these models is to maintain a range. There's a healthy range that is typically required. in certain sectors. Now there are outliers to this because we're in the I call it in modeling right now, we're in the age of outliers where it's like I would consider you an outlier in the sense that you have the framework that speaks to classic physique for sure, but you're not competing, so you're not necessarily in the succinct,
Yeah, I'm not 4% body fat. You know what I
right.
mean? I'm not dry and lean. I'm fit.
Yeah, you're fit. And for certain ones in this market, that's perfect. Because some don't want the extra cut. So, but this is an interesting age where I call it the age of the outliers, specifically with men right now. The the era of modern masculinity, where men are being cast on wellness, and there is the fitness, there is the fashion as well, the traditional fashion looks of the more slender, very just tone, but there is also the rise of that fit guy that goes to the gym. So there's a lot more room for the aspirational and then the more realistic, which is kind of how I brand my agency is like it's commercial edgy. It's like it's a little
I will say
yeah.
from talking to designers and photographers,
Hmm.
they want to see more fitness. They want to see
Yep.
more muscle.
Yeah.
They really want a man's man again, I
Yeah.
think, is
Hmm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So I've talked about that a couple times, just rubbing elbows with people talking about,
Hmm.
like, do you think we're heading back towards more of these models for men, at least? I think women, from some stuff I've been seeing, I think we're heading in a good direction for women
Yes.
in some spaces.
Hmm.
But I think for men, the comeback should be the '90s look, in my opinion. Having a little bit more muscle, a little bit more, not quite bodybuilder, maybe not super physiological, right? But aspirational for sure, like you said. And, Fashion Week is one piece of a much bigger puzzle
Yes.
when it comes to all of that.
Hmm.
So as far as upcoming things and where the industry is headed, what do you see happening? Did Fashion Week give you any insights into the industry? Are you seeing any changes going on now that shock or excite you?
To what I was saying before, I see when I'm looking between like New York and Miami, but I'm also looking at internationally what's happening in the men's fashion scene is yeah, it's almost anybody's game now. It's getting there. It's getting to the point where it's like, well, almost anybody's a model. Almost. But I would say over here, there's much more interest in the return to the much more masculine presenting man. It is not to say, and I'm trying to upset my other guys out there that have a more androgynous look or the more traditional male model look. That is not going anywhere. It is not.
No, because
But
there
when I
was there
think
was there was
about
a couple androgynous models that were
yeah,
there though. And I was like, holy crap.
yeah,
Like you are just a beautiful human being.
yeah,
Like, yeah, you're like, I didn't know you were a guy when I first saw you walking by.
ain't that
But
crazy?
it's like, holy crap, like, you are just stunning. Like, I had to show my girlfriend. I was like, "Will you look at this guy?" And he was like, "She's" what did she say? Like, "He is beautiful." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's crazy."
Yeah,
But
there is
continue.
there's I think the doors is much wider. I think ones look at, Sebum, Chris Bumstead. Well, you have, over here, the Chris Bumstead of modeling is arguably Christian Hogue,
Which
who's
to me is funny.
I know, but in this world, where like the way models are, like male models, like oh my god, Christian, if he posts just a pinky, oh my god, 16,000 likes. It's just kind of crazy in of itself. But he's been in the game for a long time, and he's considered a fitness model. I would say he's editorial fitness fashion because he's got agencies in Europe. He's with about seven different agencies now, but he has a mother agency, like akin to like mine is. It's mine is the home base,
Home
the
base.
home
Yeah,
base that you come back home to. That is still, I'm like, I'm still your mother.
I'm still here.
I'm still here.
I
Um,
birthed you.
yeah, what I see is there's just more. I think there's just a lot more. There's a lot more room on the table, and that's something that is some that speaks to how I frame my. If you know, like you probably know, my agency is a little bit more male forward, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit more. It's more masculine forward. It's commercial edgy. Now, my women that are like they are strong, dynamic women that have such a. I mean, they got a presence.
Presence. Yeah.
They have like the skill set is sick. There is range to these women. So it's like, but I am kind of, I do sort of, wasn't like intentional, but it kind of morphed into that, perhaps as an extension of my menswear background and what I'm seeing out there. That in the market, like in stores, there's more stretchy fits, athletic fusion, tech wear. For someone like you, as I'm try to explain to other ones that have more of an athletic build, it's not just gym shots, gym opportunities. You can do more than that. There's tech wear, there's travel, lifestyle. Then you can be the model that's like at a fitness retreat in Bali, something
Oh,
like
it's like
that.
I would look good as an IT guy with I am like a short like sleeves rolled up doing some computer work or something. It's one of those things where like being a man, like for modeling,
Right.
being fit makes you more attractive in whatever it is that you're doing.
Yes.
Like it doesn't really matter what you're marketing.
Hmm.
Which is why there's like the levels of fitness, right? Obviously,
Right.
the more muscular you get, it probably pushes you outside of those bounds a little bit more. But
Yeah.
having the bicep vein and like the little things that people pick up on,
Hmm.
um, just to show I work out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just enough to say I work out is, I think, the sweet spot
Right.
for most modeling.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. There's more to it than I think men give credit to. And that's part of my job is like, well, there's actually a breadth of different opportunities out there. My job is to just position, develop models to a point where it's like, well, we got a nice spread here of different possibilities with this one individual as it speaks to the needs of the market. And then and then the market decides on that. But there's definitely a lot more out there. It's for me, it's even the articles out there is we're in the age of modern masculinity. um there are brands that will cast fit men for mental health awareness campaigns. And I think too, is speaking with COVID, it took a nosedive on like the conversation on men's health was like so um amplified in a way because
Mhm.
hey, we weren't going nowhere. But a lot of men were not okay. And I would argue a lot of men are still not okay from COVID. We're just back to quote unquote normal,
The new normal.
the new normal, but there's still some residual stuff out here that brands will that are much more tentative to. And they were not casting men that were more in the fit era because I think because there was such a there's such a conversation piece of the fit guy is presented as
Bring it all together.
having it all together. But COVID exposed that it's like, well, yeah, for some. Others, if anything, we're just human beings. We're very nuanced, we're complex beings. And there are challenges that exposes all of that.
And for some people, the gym was the only thing keeping them together. You know what I mean? And so when COVID did happen, gyms closed, people didn't have their outlet, people didn't have their form of therapy and expression and da 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 da. And when you
Right.
compile all those things,
Yeah.
well, now you have an untreated mental situation going on.
Yeah. There's a wider range in the market that men can tap into as male models. And that's something that's really interesting, cool, and needed. It's needed. Fitness, fashion, wellness, travel, lifestyle. There is a breadth of like a wider range of opportunities for men, which is why it's nice seeing for me, the callback to, or just much more acceptance of the fitter than average guy or the fit guy, really the combination of the two. And women are fine. Like, ladies, it's actually a lot more. Like, there's been more inclusive opportunities, things of that nature. It's like
Which
y'all are,
I've been seeing,
yeah.
I don't know what show it was from, but I've been seeing a lot of clips recently, and the women are not what you would expect. Like, when you think of a model
Hmm.
in your mind, I think for women, we still think of, like, the 2000s Paris Hilton skinny kinda look for models, the thigh gaps and, like, that kinda thing, and
Yeah.
I've been seeing girls with figure, you know what I mean? Like, they're not I still have my own thoughts about doing, like, plus size and what we call plus size and things like that, but because a girl with a butt is not plus size. She's just from Brazil. Like, what are we talking
She's
about right now?
curvy.
Like, yeah.
She's curvy.
She's probably stronger than half of the men on that runway.
Well,
Uh,
also true.
so I am glad to be seeing that, um, because it's healthier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like promoting health. It's
Yeah.
my opinion, whether it's mental health, physical health, whatever it is. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think we get caught up a lot, especially in the industry, on the pursuit, right?
Uh,
And so
yeah.
pursuing opportunities, paying attention to the wrong things.
Hmm.
When should a model not say yes?
Well, that's a great question because it depends on the context of what's being presented to you. So in the case of, well, just use runway. So an easy answer, well, I wouldn't say easy answer, but you have situations where a model that's represented often has a branded look that's being shaped by that agency, if not that agent. Like myself, for example. There are, when you, my part of my role is to study these markets, like I said, of the types of looks that are getting booked. And even for certain models that do runway, they're not going to do every single type of runway out there. There's reasons why, okay, they were involved in that show. Their looks actually complement the overarching portfolio of that model and how that model is being branded. It also speaks to their values too, because we have to look out for that too. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. And then in some cases that just gets like, screw your morals. You are
Yeah.
a brand. But I operate from the mindset of like, well, this how does this serve in the long line and like down the line in the context of runway? So
Yeah.
certain boxes have to be checked where, as I teach models, what's involved, what are you getting out of this? Because I talk to a lot of freelance models that they're not represented, they're just kind of out here. Some are good at it, a lot are not good at it, like not good. So what ends up happening, their portfolio is just all over the place. Will they get a booking? Maybe here, but then those stuff that they really want to get, not so much because they don't really have a consistent branded look. And with me coming from, doing social media marketing as a blogger and then in other facets, I come into this industry with that mindset. But what is your messaging? Your look is literally your messaging. How you present yourself online is literally your messaging. Now that social media plays a secondary aside to a casting potentially because now people are online and they're looking at what models are doing,
And
and how they acting.
potentially now looking more online than ever like, not
Oh
only
yeah.
more online,
Yeah.
like, barrier of entry, right? Because there's really not necessarily, like, the same application process as there used to be. It's much more like
It's more
Wild
direct.
West in a sense. It seems
Yeah.
kinda scattered.
It can be, it can, for better and worse. It can definitely, it's been definitely seen situations where, okay, that direct contact is great, but sometimes you just don't know what's on the other side without having the right questions being asked and looking more deeply to who exactly is sliding in those DMs, versus what they say versus what they can really do and or not do. And what have they done? Like, where's the trail? Things like that. So it's like it's been great, yes, but it's like, as you said, it's the Wild West. So that's all the more reason why being cognizant of what you represent and what you stand for really helps. So with these models out there, I just encourage that you have to understand what your looks at, what are your boundaries, because these days a lot of people, shockingly enough, are not really saying no enough.
Right.
They're not saying no enough to things, and it's not to be bougie for the sake of being bougie, but there's also certain standards that gets degraded for the model that says yes to everything that impacts the other model that has spent, if not a couple of years, developing relationships, brands, their skill sets, where someone that's saying yes to everything makes it harder for the justification for this model that should be paid. You know, that's
Because
kind of
because
what.
this guy will just do it.
Yeah, there's just ones that will do it, and it muddies the waters a bit, which is all the more reason why curating the right relationships that have the standards makes is the ultimate way to go. It's why I tell certain models, like, look, certain shows are just not, that's not your show. That's not your show. We can
Not for
do
you.
up to a certain point. And then we start talking about, all right, let's talk about some dollars. If you want this model to be walking in your show, which this model has accrued the skill sets to justify that and the prestige. I'm dropping a lot of gold, ladies
A
and
lot of
gentlemen.
dollars.
Yeah, a lot. It's like there's a lot to that in of itself that doesn't get discussed enough. And yeah, it's a thing that, yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky market right now. It's tricky. But
But I think
I'm
it I
glad.
think it opens up. I think it makes it more competitive in the sense that it brings the opportunity to a lot more people.
Mhm.
However, I do think it muddies the waters a little bit as far as the quality that you're gonna get.
Yes. When you have influencers, in the sense of, I'm not trying to poo poo on influencers. I'm not trying to say that. But this is an example of ones that will cut corners and reach the person that, okay, well, they look like a model
Yeah, being an
online.
OnlyFans model does not make you a runway model.
No, it doesn't. It does not.
It
I
doesn't
need,
even make you editorial. It doesn't make you anything. Being an OnlyFans model doesn't make you anything but an OnlyFans model.
yeah. And it's something that is not to say that they cannot convert over.
Correct.
But again, it's learning the skill sets that meets how the industry is looking at you. And that's what some are kind of selling out, to be honest. Kind of selling out on, like, okay, well, this person is a look and that's about it. But their likes and views is towards thirst trap content. What
Yeah.
has that got to do to conversion of sales, if any at all?
Probably none. If anything, at that point, the designers and excuse me, got some chills. The designers and producers and everyone involved on that end, it's almost more so like they really are giving to these people, not so much the other way around.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
so whereas like most other models are coming in being like representing the brand, I'm representing the brand. When they are on that opposite end of the spectrum, it really does kind of become like, oh, I can use this brand to represent me.
Yeah, the whole
You know,
mindset is
and like
completely
so
different. They're coming in like, this is what this does for me. It's not like it's and it erases some models that have worked at this for years. Like, well, I've been practicing my runway, I've done all this shows, and here comes this person because they got 500K views, but their walk sucks. Their attitude sucks. They're coming in with this whole sense of entitlement. Now, that's not to say there are models that check off those boxes too. That's like, look, they got a look, but their attitude sucks.
it's kind of one of those things you can't be ugly and mean, right? You can only pick one.
Yeah. Yeah, or it can only get you certain to only so far, but it's just gonna lock you in certain lanes, and that's as far as it will ever go because you have that rep of like, well, yes, this person is skilled X, Y, and Z, but their attitude is problematic. They're just gonna own like they're not going to get any. If they've hit a ceiling, and a lot of times they don't even realize they've hit that ceiling because industry talks. People talk.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about some truths people don't wanna hear. This is probably gonna be the last segment to wrap us up here, but I think it's a good one to finish on. So, who is Fashion Week not for, or not for yet as far as, like, the models? So I know we've talked about influencers and stuff like that. I'm thinking more models specific.
I would say, well, it's not for the models that don't understand what a comp card is. It's not for the ones that want to get into the upper echelon shows. A, you don't have the look when certain shows only go to certain agencies that have you talk about curated looks like almost every single there is no mistake as to why this one was signed versus that one. Like there are certain brands out here that only work with a certain types of looks, and this isn't accredited to just runway. It's not just accredited to just runway. There are just certain. If you do not have the measurements, if you do not have this walk down pat, and it's not just a walk. There are stuff. There's a whole different skill sets to that. If you do not have the professionalism, it doesn't really matter how pretty you are. Or it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You may get into certain shows by the favor of a designer that you may have kissed up to, or someone knows somebody that knows somebody else that got you into a thing. Does it happen? Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, no situation is absolutely perfect, but there's just a lot of delusional folks out here that kind of feel like, oh well, they're seeing a lot of exceptions, and like, well, the exceptions don't change the rule, and then not understanding your look, what you getting all the attention online on social media doesn't mean anything to the people that are way more hardcore looking at you. Can you take a photo? You know? Or like, how do you translate in these photos? There are certain people that look better in person than I've ever shot them, you know? And then the vice versa. It's like, well, you know, your look is not as strong as you think in person, as opposed to when I take a photo of you, it's like, wow,
Captured very well.
this worked.
And so, I
Interesting.
mean, a lot of that I think has to do with like facial structure and stuff like that too. Cause like when we start getting into, the high fashion conversations,
Mhm.
you wouldn't necessarily see a high fashion model on the street and think that they were a model.
Because not
If
everyone
if
signs.
you're not if you're not in the industry.
Yeah, because how the industry views beauty is not what the average Joe is looking at. They're not like a lot of even when I post up online, I know I can sense like, and I sometimes get DMs from like, well, I'm like, you don't get it. And that sounds a little snobby, but it's like, but you don't understand there are looks, there are certain things, and some people are not necessarily gorgeous, but they have a distinct look that it rocks. It works for certain markets that that person is a look. And in
Yeah.
certain cases, it's like they don't care whether the general public thinks this person is beautiful or not. We think they are, It's like we don't care. So it's like for what this industry is, it's not for the people that can't take criticism. Ultimately, it's not for the people that do not want to put in the time. And I'm not saying it takes eons of time. No, I'm not. Because it is also predicated on the person's circumstances.
Right.
But a lot of people that can't handle criticism, even in the smallest sense, of saying, even I've told individuals, that's not your look. You should try this. It's like they fall apart. I can see them like, what? What?
What do you mean?
What do
Well,
you
because you
mean by
just you just completely changed their whole worldview, you know what I mean?
yeah? And it's not and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just trying to say, "Look, I'm literally telling you these are not what that's not what's getting cast right now. You
And it
should
is
try
also like a
this."
lot of it is just your opinion. You know what I mean? Like really at the end of the day, a different photographer could have a different opinion, a different agent could have a different opinion, different designer could have a different opinion because they might be looking for something that you're not. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
vice versa. Or you're looking for something that they're not. And so this isn't to put anyone down or anything like
Mhm.
that. It's just to be realistic a
The
little bit.
market shifts on what it
Yes.
wants. And then because I'm glad you said that because I've said it before, sometimes my no may mean and it doesn't mean it not at all, but it
Mm.
is like it's a no for now. And then later on, it could be a yes for very different reasons, you know? And
And
then there are
especially
certain things that are just like hands down, fundamentally, this isn't going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to
well, yeah,
work.
even with small things, right? Like if I decided I wanted to grow out my beard and I want to just keep it, I'm not shaving it, I'm not trimming it down as
Hmm.
low as I've had it before, right? If
Right.
I decided to do that, I limit my opportunities by a lot. Just by being not willing. I can have it, but as long as I have pictures of me with it trimmed, it's easy enough to be like, I also look like this. I
Hmm.
also look like this.
Hmm.
Which version of me do you want? You know what I mean? And then it's like we can bring that. But what is the fastest way a model can burn bridges?
Or like, how deep are we want to go with that, Stephen? Well, it can, I think like I'm telepathic. Like I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of a few
Well, because we've
special
we've
apples.
had some of these conversations before. A lot of this is stuff like we're giving people some freebies here, right? Because
Well,
as far as what can burn bridges for models and stuff like that, a lot of that can come down to like your model training, like working with your coach. So bringing Chance back up again, like that is part of her job is to like kind of prepare on that end as far as like these are the things that you need to do physically as far as like your walk and your posing and whatever, but do not do X, Y, Z.
the easiest way is just biting the hands that fed you, especially like when you are being developed as a model and certain things, certain opportunities. It takes time, and I can't stress that enough. It takes because you're building a brand, and ones that watch you. It doesn't mean that they're just trying to be difficult. It's like, but they gotta see it. They gotta see like how this person shapes up to be. And let's say that said person starts to see some initial reactions of success. The worst thing that you can do is almost act like you arrived into the scene with almost like you revised history how you got here. And a lot of models cannot are not like there are so many people that got involved in that person's presentation. Christian Hogue isn't who he is if it wasn't for his mother agency and all these other agencies, the photographers that believed in him, saw something, the coaching, the training. It's no different from like in the bodybuilding scene, like Chris Bumstead. Like he had a team. These other
Coaches have coaches. You know what I
the
mean?
coaches
It's
have
one of those
coaches.
things.
And if you're coming into this like I just arrived, or you're kind of changing the way how you got to where you are, and you're leaving key people. I mean, it was one thing if there were horrible people, like
Right, but
absolutely,
kind
like
of making it seem a little more like you came up on your own and a little less like people were in your corner kind of thing.
it's real because this industry is intimate. It's more intimate than people give it credit. And in Florida models, the Florida modeling scene is not that big. It's not as big as you think. There's tiers to it, yes. But you talk about intimate, you'd be surprised how certain ones didn't get an opportunity because they don't realize that so and so knew someone else that knew other person that knew me. And I said, well, this is what happened. I'm just
Well, and
using that as
especially
an
like
example.
as far as like how you carry yourself and stuff in public, I'm not going to throw any names out there or anything, but we've seen. a video circulating on the internet showcasing what happens when you're not always a upstanding individual all the time.
Right.
Sometimes you
Right.
don't know cameras are on, and
Yep.
sometimes you get caught up, and sometimes all of a sudden thousands of people see what you're like when you're not the one recording yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Hate to throw them out there, but man, well, Jordan, I appreciate you breaking this down honestly, and especially now that we're talking about Fashion Week and stuff like that from experience and not just theory. For anyone listening, Fashion Week isn't about a single week or a single weekend. It's about how you show up, how you're remembered, and what you do next. It is not the finish line. Any of these big stepping stones that you are trying to reach are not the end all be all. All right.
Mhm.
So go follow Jordan at Jordan Mixon, Mixson,
Yeah.
and the Sip and Pose Model Mixer to see what development and opportunity looks like in this industry. We will be continuing this conversation as new events and opportunities unfold. So stay locked in, and I will see you on the next episode of EHC Unfiltered.
Thanks, guys.